Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report 5. My name is Mal McCallion. I'm here to help you through the combined worlds of property and AI. I'm Chief Exec of a business called Model Prop, and we help estate and lettings agents to use AI in their businesses to essentially improve their bottom lines. Now, we have a pretty packed show today, and we're going to be talking a lot about the portal wars, including all three of the big guns. We're going to talk about Rightmove, Zoopla, and OnTheMarket/Homes/ CoStar. And we are also going to take a look at our old friends Purplebricks. They've been busy last week. And also have a look at the co-living space, which is something I'm pretty excited by. In AI and tech news, we've got the AI Beatles, and we've got AI helping the blind to see, and a bunch of other stuff too, including our tool of the week. So without further ado, let's get cracking onto our property news. In this week's property news, we're going to start with the portals. Now, each of the big three has had a variety of different stories out last week. So I think what we're probably going to do is start with OnTheMarket, because they attended the EA Masters last week. Jason-Tebb, the president, was up on stage doing a talk, as he has done over the last few years since OnTheMarket became the prime sponsor of EA Masters. For those who don't know, EA Masters is a really great exhibition, event, conference, bringing together the great and the good of the estate and lettings agent markets in the UK. About 1,250 people there, really high quality event. And this year was no different in terms of all of the exhibitors that were there. We were there as Model Prop, which was great, and also the quality of the speakers and so on that were up on stage. Now, Jason-Tebb has been with OnTheMarket for a number of years now. He brokered the deal with CoStar, and he has never to this point been able to really say what he thinks. And I caught up with him afterwards as well, and literally he said, look, I just haven't been able to say this stuff before, because as a public limited company, as OnTheMarket was before CoStar took it private, he has to play nice with all of his competitors. He decided that wasn't the strategy that was going to carry on, and he really ripped the gloves off, and was very much talking about Rightmove as essentially being abusers of estate agents, actually saying that over time this relationship with Rightmove had become really toxic between agents and Rightmove, and that essentially with Rightmove's 70% margin, that there was a kind of financial abuse taking place. And also just how offensive that 70% margin was. And in terms of lack of innovation on Rightmove's behalf, this was something that the industry had just almost gotten used to and just accepted as being a fact, and it just had to happen. So it was just a really, I think, a really powerful moment, really, when historically nobody's really come out and really gone after Rightmove from any of their kind of big competitors in terms of what is self-evidently true, which is that Rightmove is essentially pillaging money from the industry, is trousering it and then giving it off to its shareholders from outside the industry, and that is to the huge detriment of the market, of participants in the market. So estate agents, they can't use that money for anything else, to invest and to try different new things. It is literally just scooping, gouging money away from legitimate other interests, and spiriting it away and just sinking it into shareholders. It isn't charging what it's charging because it has to. It's charging it because it believes it can. That has fought off the likes of REA Group's takeover back in September, has given it a bit of a problem in terms of it's going to have to just keep on raising prices now, because in order to maintain and justify the 6.4 billion pounds that it turned down, it's going to have to make damn sure that the business is worth that pretty soon. Otherwise, shareholders are going to say, why don't we just sell? So I really think that that Jason-Tebb going after Rightmove is important, and is an important moment. CoStar obviously have come into the market to win. They have stated categorically that they're going to knock Rightmove off its perch. So it's not a huge surprise that this language is being used at some stage. But I think up on stage in front of 1,250 estate and lettings agents, I think is a real moment for him to really start going after them, and to hopefully to get people to think genuinely about what are the alternatives. And yes, obviously CoStar is one, and OnTheMarket and Homes.com and whatever they brand it as. But also, what's your strategy? for coming off Rightmove. They're just going to keep putting the prices up. So it is almost inevitable that at some stage you're going to have to ask yourselves the question, is this good for me? And again, to use Jason Tebb's quote, is this abusive? Am I literally just kicking this when I shouldn't be? And there are other ways of considering this and thinking about this particular relationship. So that, I think, was a really powerful moment in time from last week. What it also then just actually presaged was Rightmove's interim results on Friday. So that was on Tuesday last week. On Friday last week, Rightmove released a statement to the stock exchange saying that essentially it was on target to beat its expectations in terms of how much extra it was able to rip from estate agents' wallets on a monthly basis. And instead of it being in the £75 bracket, it was up near the £85, £90 bracket per month. That takes it over 1,500 per month on average revenue per agent. And keeps it on target to get over its 2,000 target by 2028. But yeah, it's obviously the strategy for Rightmove is going to continue to be just this major source of income is going to be the estate agents, the reliable way of impressing its shareholders and making sure that it continues to be able to essentially be an ATM for them, a cash machine for them. Rightmove, again, perhaps the timing was not great from their point of view. From the estate agent point of view, obviously from the shareholder point of view, it's all good, right? They're really happy that Move continues to be able to exercise its vice-like grip on the market. I don't think it's going to herald a very happy new year for many agents. Obviously, they're still reeling from the budget and particularly the national insurance increases, and then what's coming through as well from the minimum wage increases too. I was speaking with an agent this morning who says that essentially it's going to be £650 a year for every individual that they've employed extra, which obviously adds up quite significantly very quickly. That they are looking at what they can afford and how actually they can pay the right people, enough people, and also then continue to support the likes of Rightmove and others. And perhaps, again, this is why Jason Tebb has really come out fighting this week, because it is crystal clear that pretty soon people are going to be making decisions on one or the other, and how can they, and what's important to an agent in terms of its relationship with its suppliers and in terms of what actually it's delivering for them. So we've been clear all the way through, and regular listeners will know that I am a full advocate of having a portal recovery plan where you know what's going to happen when you have to come off Rightmove, what your strategies are, how you talk to vendors, how you talk to landlords, because it's for many agents it's coming, and it's coming fast. Yeah, give that some thought. Portal recovery plan. How are you going to talk to everybody about this? What are you going to make sure you do with the money so that it looks like, so that you are self-evidently investing in new technologies and new ways of marketing, but also making sure you're looking at all the other options and making sure that, yes, essentially you have sketched out, planned out that this is a deliberate act rather than a Hail Mary when you just literally can't afford it anymore. So that was one of Rightmove's announcements last week. Another kind of almost soft soap announcement was it's dipping its toe into AI, and really quite underwhelming for a business that's makes hundreds of millions of pounds a quarter. It is introducing what it's calling it's introducing its area guides, essentially. So if you are on a particular property in a particular area, then Rightmove's AI will pop up and talk to you about something to do with the area. Now, of all the AI integrations or implementations, that is probably the most easy and probably the weakest. Telling people about particular areas when they know the area, generally speaking, is probably a little bit of a lame use case. Certainly, it's not something that is going to divert any level of investment and innovation into the market. It is trialing it only in a few towns apparently at the moment as well. So it's made this big announcement last week. Very little to it, very little depth. And it just shows again that really they daren't embrace AI properly because they know that AI is going to ruin their business model. Because AI will mean that people can find their perfect home without going through all of Rightmove's premium products. So all of those featured properties, the Optimizer Plus, the Optimizer Edge that you have bought will not, in the age of AI, count for anything, because people will just I want the 3 properties that fulfill my criteria, and that criteria is not just a filter. It's not 3 bedrooms, this location, this price, this particular feature. It is all about natural language search. So you're going to be looking for have you got any properties that have got a riverside view that are near a train station, got a parking space and a skylight in the kitchen? And that's going to be your perfect home. And then AI can tell you what's on the market like that. So I do think that this almost exposes Rightmove's paucity of ambition regarding AI and regarding technology in general. It is basically serving up some generative AI area guide that really is, A is 2 years old, and B, if it's taken them 2 years to develop that, then it tells you the scale of their ambition is literally just to try and throw a bit of grit in your eyes and pretend they're doing AI when really they're doing nothing of the kind. So our final of the big three in terms of our portal wars this week is Zoopla. Zoopla is stepping in and actually not touching the other guys this week. They're just doing their own little thing, which is great. And what they've done is they've launched some advertising campaigns that really feature estate agents at the heart of the adverts. So actually have individual agents that have been voted for to appear in the adverts. And it's easy to be cynical. It's easy to say, obviously, they're doing that just so they can get on the right side of agents and so on. But I do think it's actually a really smart campaign. I think it's very sensible. I think that they've also tweaked the site a little bit so that it's easier to surface the right agents and so on. So look, it's obviously playing to the crowd. It's obviously making sure that their subscribers are feeling a bit more love. But I think it's an interesting indicator that both OnTheMarket/Homes.com and Zoopla are both driving hard at the agent relationship angle and leaving Move isolated as being the ones that are interested in relationship. They're just interested in gouging as much money as possible. As I've said many times, I do believe that it makes perfect sense for these two, number 2 and number 3, Zoopla and OnTheMarket, to come together and fight Rightmove together. And it is interesting that their kind of campaigns are aligning, although OnTheMarket is a little bit more shouty at this point, whereas Zoopla's people are very nice. But yeah, I think that it won't be too long or too much money spent, I would hope, fighting each other, numbers 2 and 3, before they join forces and go after Rightmove on their own. So yeah, just a really interesting week from those three. Different perspectives, different moments, but I think it's all building towards a really fascinating 2025 when I think we're going to see the gloves off in many different types of and if Rightmove thinks that it is going to be straightforward for it just to continue to hike prices without agents finding that it's too much in some instances, and as soon as that breaks, as soon as people start to think, actually, I know 5 agents that don't use Rightmove anymore and they're okay, that's the moment. And I think that it's coming closer every time Rightmove things like overly aggressively increasing its prices and then clearly not investing in any kind of infrastructure in its own system. Okay, so that's our property news regarding the portal. Just one more thing that I wanted to chat about, which is co-living. Now, there's a particular organization which is called Conscious Co-Living, and they are a collective of different co-living organizations. And their basic kind of thesis is that many people who can't afford to rent, can't afford to buy, are going to be living in co-living spaces. And I think I absolutely think it's true. I think that is definitely the way that it's going to go, for better or worse. You might argue that's taking us back to caveman days when everyone used to sit around campfires together and all that sort of stuff, and we should be way beyond that. I think that we have become far more atomized as a society. People spend way too much time on their own, on their phones, etc. So bringing people back together in any environment, I think, has got to be beneficial for many people, not all. But yeah, and I think it sounds like it's going to be it's a solution to a genuine problem. And I think I always look at these things and say, is it a solution to a problem, or is it just some idea that somebody's had sitting on their own away from everybody else? But this genuinely seems to have some legs. It's got some good businesses behind it. It is, although from a very small base, it's growing. And I can see it being an important part of the mix in terms of housing provision going forwards. And I think that, yeah, it's got to be applauded that it's now starting to come more to the fore and start to become more obvious. And yeah, I just think that it's going to be a space to keep an eye on, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how they grow it. Yeah, good luck to them. Conscious co-living, interesting concepts, and I think it's going to be something to make sure we pay attention to going forwards. Next up, it's our AI and tech news. So really interesting to see this week that the AI Beatles have had a Grammy nomination for their track Now and Then, which was AI assisted. You may remember this was a track that Paul McCartney with George Harrison started messing about with, I think, in the 90s, which had some John Lennon vocals on it from obviously back in the 70s. And this particular, what they've done with it is that they've added a kind of AI version of John Lennon's voice on top as well. So actually enhanced it and added to it. And then created a very atmospheric, a very Beatles-y song called Now and Then that was released last year. So it's been nominated now for a Grammy, going up against the likes of Beyonce, which is quite hilarious. So yeah, I just think that as AI gets more and more involved in the mainstream, then people are going to start to more and more see, and we've spoken about this before, like electricity, like fire, like cars. It's a technology that can do some really good stuff, as well as, some really bad stuff. People can run you over in the car. They can also give you lifts to places. Fire can burn you very badly, but also can heat and cook stuff. So it's just the way that people see this out in the wild is really going to influence and help them to understand what's possible. And listen, I can't tell you enough that if there's anything we can do here to try and help with AI literacy, we would love to. We think AI is huge and has potential so significant that everybody should know a little bit about it. And so having something like this being not being rejected by the Grammys, not being said, no, there's a bit of AI in there, so therefore we can't have it anywhere, I think is really powerful and really helps to almost democratize it and make sure that people understand that this is something that can be a force for good, that can help people as well. But yes, that's really powerful. I think as well, there's another story, this was from the Telegraph last week, that a blind woman has better than 20/20 vision after AI surgery. The headline is a little bit misleading and clickbaity in that it turns out that she's blind without her glasses. She has very strong glasses and can see a little bit. It's not starting from nothing, but it is somebody who is, technically and for legal purposes blind without their glasses. And this has given her better than 20/20 vision. So they call it 20/16. It means that you can see, normal people can see 20 feet away, 16 feet away, 20 feet away, the other way around. Yeah. So essentially it means you've just got super sight, right? You are actually really powerfully able to see things from far away. So look, it's just another great story. The AI essentially mapped all of the kind of contours of the inside of our eyes, was able to then test like loads of different potential solutions to it and then find exactly the right one and then essentially do the laser eye surgery from there. And it's just obviously changed their life. Again, another kind of story about how AI is doing some really strong things and helping people to live better lives, which I think is really what the end goal is for all of those that practice AI for good. And certainly we count ourselves as that. Our aim here is to help people find their dream homes. So actually to surface those, to make sure that they can find them wherever they are. And yeah, these stories always just make you think that actually what is possible is coming ever closer in terms of its breadth and reach and the strength of its ability to help people. Yeah, lots more to keep an eye out on those, but some really strong stories about how AI is becoming much more mainstream and helping people to do what they do better. Now let's talk about our tool of the week. This week's tool of the week is a particular feature of Notebook LM. So regular listeners will know that Notebook LM is one of our favorite tools from Google. It's free at the moment. I think it is intended to be free for a little while. But what you can do with Notebook LM is you can put some text in, any text in. For example, I put the text of the budget in a couple of weeks back when that came out and then asked it, what does this mean for property? And it came back really quickly with loads of stuff about property. So it's just a really powerful, it's called notebooklm.google.com. Do go and have a look. But what it does is it creates a little podcast chats between two AIs. And it sounds so lifelike, it's incredible. So what we've been looking at here at Model Prop is putting in property descriptions. Okay, so actually just getting one of your properties and imagine that you've got, say, the weekend team who perhaps aren't as familiar with the properties as the guys that listed them, or who talk about them every day in the office. And what they do is they can basically drive to a viewing and listen to these podcasters talking about the property while they're driving. So they can get a real insight into it. So here's just a little bit of one of them talking about a property down in Brighton and Hove.
All right. Ready to dive into some serious property envy?
Let's do it.
We're talking seaside luxury today, right? This Brunswick Terrace flat in Hove.
Yeah, Michon's estate agents. They've got this place listed at, wait for it, 850,000 pounds.
Okay, so we're not talking about your average seaside cottage here. Gotta ask, from the listing alone, who are they trying to reel in with this one?
So it's interesting, right? They're playing to a very specific buyer.
Okay, so you can hear it's all very chatty, it's all very natural. I'm just going to go a little bit further in. You can hear some more about the details, but this is 9 minutes long, just from one listing. Literally, you just feed it in the URL of the property, and it will give you all this.
Putting on that beach could get noisy, especially in the summer. Plus, there's the whole privacy thing. People on the beach might be able to see in.
Trade-offs.
Exactly. Do you want that beachfront access enough to deal with the potential downsides?
They mentioned Brighton City Center being a stone's throw away as well. What's the relationship between Hove and Brighton? Are they like rivals?
More like two sides of the same coin.
Okay, so it literally dives into everything. So even the objections that you might get around, or your team might get around, it's too close to the beach in this particular instance, but it's just a great way of helping your teams to understand more about these particular properties without you having to spend ages helping them and making sure that they've read up on everything. So really good tool, Notebook LM. Have a little go on it and do just try putting some of your property details in. It's really cool. All right, that's it for this week's Property AI Report. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with more Property AI news and look very much forward to catching up with you again then. Until that time, thanks again for listening, and we'll catch up with you next week. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.